that's why it would be quick and easy to fix. I wonder what kind of pipeline that is.
Up here? I don't know. It's probably the tar sands pipeline.
That's what I'm thinking.
The Alberta tar sands is absolutely the worst fossil fuels extraction type of situation ever. It's the way to extract the oil from the tar sands is, first of all, you would have to find the tar sands, which is subsurface, usually underlying boreal forest. The boreal forest is a very efficient carbon sink. So first of all, after they have found the tar sands, they have to plow down all the boreal forest, and that is in terms of thousands of square kilometers. And so they're making the boreal forest from a carbon sink into a carbon source, because all the dead wood would decompose and release greenhouse gases. And in order to, so then they use backhoes and they use plows and so on to get the bitumen out, which is the tar sands, and then they would have to heat it with natural gas to melt the tar into crude oil. The crude oil drains out, and then you would have to pump it through a pipeline right across British Columbia to Kitimat to the tankers, and the tankers will move the tar sands to the U.S. To refine, or to China, and then the refining process, the transportation process will also use up a lot of gas, a lot of fuel, and in terms of using natural gas to get the crude oil out of the tar sands, the natural gas on a per day basis could fuel 3.8 million homes. And there would be far more homes than in Edmonton and in Calgary combined, I would think, or roughly the same. So it is incredibly polluting in the extraction process. But we must not forget that ultimately all the carbon in the tar sands will be turned into gasoline, and the gasoline is destined to be burnt. So all the carbon stored for millions of years in the tar sands will be released into the atmosphere. There will be billions of tons of carbon ultimately from the tar sands into the atmosphere, plus all the fuel burnt to extract the crude oil from the tar, to transport the crude oil to the destination refineries, and to refine the crude oil into gasoline. So if we proceed with the tar sands as planned, which is to triple its production between now and the year 2020, and maybe even continue on until 2050, even though they say that it is going to peak at about 2020, I do not believe a word of it. That is going to add at least 1 or 2 degrees Celsius to the roster of global warming, and that is going to drive global warming into runaway global heating, which actually has already begun, because whatever carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today has warmed the Earth enough to begin to melt the permafrost in the subarctic, in Canada, in Siberia, in Northern Europe, and the amount of methane stored inside the permafrost is to the tune of approximately 1 trillion tons, and that is more than the amount of carbon in the atmosphere today. So the tar sands, the carbon dioxide eventually released from the tar sands will heat up the earth even more, and it will release the methane even faster. And the methane will drive the world into runaway global heating, and that is going to get the Earth's temperature within a century or so up by 6 degrees Celsius and more, maybe even 10 degrees Celsius, because the 6 degrees worst case scenario produced by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change does not even include considerations of methane heating and the methane feedback loop. The feedback loop of methane means the more methane released from the permafrost or from the continental shelf, the warmer the atmosphere is going to get, and the more methane is going to be released, and so on and so forth. So if we carry on and proceed with the tar sands as planned, we are committing global suicide. And not just that, not just suicide for our own species, it would be genocide or biocide of several million species. I'm talking about if we really hit 10 degrees Celsius higher than today, we are talking about approximately 85% of all life on Earth. And I'm talking about all the species on Earth, which means 85% of about 20 million species, or about 17 to 18 million species within 60 or 70 years. And it would be the absolute greatest crime our species can ever commit, and we're in the process of well on the way of getting rid of millions of species because we want more fuel to fuel our SUVs for a few more years. I'm talking about a few more years, at most maybe 10 more years, 20 more years. Anything after that, first of all, the Earth will be almost uninhabitable after about 30 or 40 years, 50 years, and there'll be no more fossil fuels that can be burned without driving the Earth into runaway global heating even more. And I mean, you know, if we proceed with the tar sands, we're committing suicide, species suicide, and biocide by millions of species. And the only way to prevent this from happening, the first step is to shut down the tar sands completely. It's not a moratorium we're talking about. We're talking about shutting down the tar sands completely and leaving it in the ground, and no more exploration even. And it's a good thing that yesterday or day before we heard news that the mayors, a whole group of US mayors, the Association of Mayors of the United States, have declared that they are going to not purchase or use oil from the tar sands. They call it dirty oil, as if oil itself is not dirty enough. So the tar sands must be shut down, and we are setting a timeline, a time limit of 3 years. And if it doesn't shut down within 3 years, we're toast.